And good morning. I'm Dan DeRosa with 19 News. By now, you should know what that sound means. It is Cuyahoga's Most Wanted. Every week, we work with Crime Stoppers of Cuyahoga County to feature 3 fugitives who are on the run, facing serious charges right here in Cuyahoga County. We need to bring them in. Let's get them in front of a judge. Innocent until proven guilty, but they are facing very serious charges, and it's a chance to clean up our street one individual at a time. We're going to welcome in, as we do every week, Detective Red Dyer with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department. Detective, how are you this morning?
Oh, doing great, Dan. Enjoying the little bit of warm weather we're getting.
Absolutely an interesting week of weather we're having yet again this week. Let's get to our cases. This first one, wow, it's one of those that you shake your head. There's a lot at play here, especially when you consider this is an alleged rape that goes all the way back to 1993. Walk us through the case of Frankie Graham.
Well, as you were saying, Dan, this is an interesting situation we have here. Mr. Frankie Graham was actually standing trial for the rape of a woman in 1993. He was identified and indicted in 2021 through the Gold Unit from DNA. And for those that don't know, Gold Unit would be the Genetic Operations Linking DNA. They work on cold cases like this to help bring justice to these victims. In October of 2023, Frankie Graham responded to the court for a trial. Unfortunately, Frankie left during a lunch break and failed to return to trial. A warrant was issued for his arrest, obviously, for that. He's 5'10" and 200 pounds and was last known to be staying in the Cleveland area, but also has ties to the Wheeling, West Virginia area.
And that's important, that Wheeling, West Virginia. If he's smart, you can debate whether criminals are smart. You get out of town when you do something like this. You walk out in the middle of your rape kidnapping trial. He may not be in Cleveland, so that Wheeling, West Virginia is important. We may need to make sure that this video gets shared all the way down there so that we can get some justice. Let's get to our second case. Walk us through what we know about David Robinson.
Well, Dan, what we know about David Robinson's incident is this originates out of the Cleveland Metropolitan Housing Authority Police. Now, according to reports in October of 2023, the victim was invited to David Robinson's residence. When the victim later attempted to leave, Mr. Robinson's alleged to have grabbed them by the hair and dragged them back into the home. A scary situation, to be sure. He then strangled the victim, punched them in the face multiple times, and took their cell phone. David has a criminal history with the Sheriff's Department dating back to 2007. He's approximately 5'5" and 204 pounds and was last known to be staying in the 2700 block of Cedar Ave in the city of Cleveland.
And Red, we always like to describe some of these charges when somebody is charged with disrupting public service. You always do a really good job of articulating what does that mean when someone is charged with disrupting public service.
Well, Dan, like I stated, when the cell phone was taken from the victim, that can prevent them from calling for help in these situations. We often do see this, which obviously this is already a very dangerous situation. You're trying to call for help, and someone's trying to prevent you from calling for help. It's something they are not allowed to do.
Yeah, it's an interesting name for a charge there, disrupting a public service. That makes sense. Phone, the ability to make a phone call is a public service, so you can't keep someone from doing that. Our third and final fugitive on the run today. Let's get to the case of Warren Collins. What do we know?
Well, Dan, I wanted to feature this one in order for us to get some information on him for our sex offender registration unit. Mr. Collins actually has 3 warrants with the Sheriff's Department. 2 cases are for failing to register as a sex offender. So you see, he's actually considered a Tier 3 sex offender, the highest level that we have, due to a 2014 guilty plea to sexual battery and abduction. The victim in that case was reported to be a 15-year-old, Dan. Warren is also wanted for allegedly being in possession of a firearm, and due to these convictions of sexual battery and abduction, he is not permitted to own a firearm. We see this, unfortunately, a lot. People not being allowed to own firearms, possessing firearms. Reports stating that in 2022, he was a passenger in a vehicle that was stopped by Cleveland police. Detectives observed an open bottle of tequila and a black handgun between his legs. The 9mm was loaded with 17 rounds. Warren Collins has a tattoo that states "Go Cavs" on his right leg, so must be a Cavs fan, I guess, and a full sleeve on his left arm. He is 6'2" and 225 pounds and was last known to be staying in the 2000 block of West 99th Street in the city of Cleveland.
Red, there's a reason we do this. We do this every week. We've had very good success with it, getting individuals taken off our street. You like to say that this is part of community outreach. Why is that?
Well, Dan, we recognize the value in the community for gathering information on these wanted fugitives. We know the community is just as passionate about keeping their communities clean and safe as we are. So we always reach out and we appreciate any information that we can get. And it also is the opportunity to help the community earn a potential reward for providing this information, which you usually cover.
Yeah, we'll get to that. It's very simple to call in a tip to Crime Stoppers, and that's one of the reasons this program works so well, is because it's completely anonymous. The tips can be called into 216-252-7463. That's 216-25-CRIME if you need to remember it later. Red, it's so important that people understand their name is not going to be associated with this in any way, shape, or form. Why is that?
That's because, Dan, we don't record phone calls. We don't record your name. We don't take down any of your personal identifying information. In fact, we don't want any of that information. Everything that we do through you is referenced through an anonymous tip number. So your information is never exchanged with us.
So you get that tip number, you call in your tip. You can check back 45 days later, see if your tip led to that arrest and if you're eligible for that reward, and they'll walk you through that program. That's why this is so important, because we understand people are scared, they're nervous, they don't want their name ending up in some sort of court document that defendant can see at some point that they were the ones that called them in. That's not how this works. They understand there needs to be this anonymous component to be able to get people to call in tips. Red, we discussed the reward up to a $5,000 reward. What do we like people to know when we talk about that $5,000 reward?
We like them to know that crime doesn't pay, but Crime Stoppers does.
Absolutely. It is a chance to make money. Money is a large motivator. We've seen it in the past, and it can help clean up our streets. Detective Red Dyer with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department, thanks for joining us yet again this week.
My pleasure, Dan. Thank you.
All right, take care, Red. We're going to wrap it up again. Very simple. Here's that phone number, 216-252-7463, 216-25-CRIME. You can also do your part by sharing this video. If you're watching this on social media, we know the power that it has. When you just hit that share button, somebody else gets a chance to watch this video, and they may recognize one of our suspects and can bring him in. If we have any other breaking news, it'll be here on our digital platforms. Our 11 o'clock news just about 20 minutes away on CW43, and then our noon news on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a great day.
19 News is everywhere. Download our CTV apps and follow us on social media @